What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Very Cold Lasagna, the podcast that houses a safe and open listening platform for all the casual, cold, and dumb takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to today's episode number 103 of this freezing cold podcast that houses the icy yet spicy lasagna in that very cold fridge. Today, we're going to be talking about my San Francisco 49ers and, well, the offseason so far in terms of the draft. And now we have the full schedule for them for 2022. And I gotta say, this past week, all the hype was circulating around the release of all 272 games for 2022. And I don't know why it had to be such a big event. And I know the NBA playoffs are going on. And for people that don't watch basketball, that just stick to football, I mean, I guess you could say it was a good time for them, to get all hyped for the fall. And, if for me, that's mainly a football guy. I'm a little into basketball, to the NBA playoffs, which are, by the way, they've been pretty solid right now. I'm ready. I'm definitely ready for what's to come in the fall. A lot of good games, to right out of the gate in week one. If you all want to hear me do it, kind of like a thoughts video on the YouTube channel, definitely let me know. But there's a lot of good games on the docket right out of the gate in week one, and then as we progress along into the season, even more to come. Of course, things can always change over time. The season is like a revolving merry-go-round, as I like to say, because every week is different in the NFL. Every single year. Every year is different. Every week is different because you don't know what's going to happen. You definitely don't know what's going to happen. It's not like WWE or AEW nowadays where, every match feels the same. Every story feels the same. Every show feels the damn same. The NFL, even the NBA, I guess, that's pretty much most sports. They feel different. They feel completely different. Every game is different. The results are different. Like everything in between that, it's different. So here we are waiting for all of us football fans. Now we wait. We wait for the next step, which is, of course, September. We wait for September to come around to us. But when it comes to my San Francisco 49ers, of course, there are some things to talk about. Here on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the draft because I have yet to talk about, my personal thoughts on their draft picks because, well, to be honest with you, I took a little bit of a debrief after the draft, and there were a lot of things happening the week after the NFL draft, going on a mini trip and a lot of appointments. So didn't have time to jot down all the notes from the NFL draft, but I will say the New York Jets, then the Detroit Lions stole the show in that draft with their draft picks, as well as the Baltimore Ravens trading away Marquise Brown, and then shoring up that defense, trying to make that much better. I think the only thing that they need to be a little concerned about is hoping that Rashad Bateman turns out well in his second year. So other than that, the draft was pretty good for those teams. Now, of course, how do you translate that to the regular season? That remains to be seen. So now, let's get on the topic of my San Francisco 49ers. It's been an interesting season in terms of, the break for them. It's been an interesting couple of months for the 49ers ever since they lost the NFC Championship game to the LA Rams. They were just a couple minutes short of making it to the Super Bowl, playing in that stadium against the Cincinnati Bengals. So, there's a lot of things that they definitely need to address in this offseason. And, I say they addressed about half of it. And they seriously need to address them all. And there were a couple things that just went into, I guess you could say, into into their way like an RKO. You know, the Randy Orton finisher. They comes out of you like a viper in the night. Boom, RKO out of nowhere. So, for those of you that are unfamiliar with what's going on with the 49ers in this offseason so far, it's May, by the way. And again, things can change on the whim by June, July, preseason in August, and of course, when we get to the regular season in September. But we're in May. Things are likely to die down during these next couple of months before training camp and preseason. But anyway, I digress. Well, for the 49ers, they signed Charvarius Ward. He was the big free agent signing in free agency. He was from the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the secondary corners in that Kansas City defense that often gets torched. But for Charvarius Ward, I mean, it was a solid signing. I just hope he pans out. I hope he's a reliable corner opposite Emmanuel Mosley. So we're going to see how that pans out, how he fits in DeMeco Ryans' defense. And then pretty much other than that was pretty much like the only big signing because, well, we could have had $25 million in the bag to make another, like, not big splash free agent signing, but make some extension offers to two certain individuals, Deebo Samuel, more on him later, and their edge rusher, drafted in that same draft class in 2019, Nick Bosa. And the reason why we don't have that $25 million is because, well, we still have another quarterback on the roster that is not named the supposed starter for 2022. And that quarterback was last year's starter, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the team as we speak. The team, throughout this entire offseason, as of right now, has tried and absolutely failed to find a trade partner for Jimmy Garoppolo, and it makes absolutely no sense. And I'm not going to single-handedly blame Jimmy G, even though I technically did in the past, so I take that back a little bit. And I'm willing to admit to taking it back if I ever like said, oh, Jimmy G sabotaged the 49ers plans into trading him, which he half did that. But the 49ers didn't do anything to get rid of him as soon as possible. They didn't find a trade partner fast enough. They didn't do anything to put together like at least a decent trade package. Like, what were they trying? What were they realistically looking for out of like Jimmy G's trade value? Like, what was the highest bid? Like the biggest number that I've been hearing on from like various beat writers, various like social media accounts, like well-known IG accounts from the likes of the SF Niners or RSF 49ers on Instagram and other 49ers insiders, was a second round pick. And there were a couple of times where the 49ers said they wanted a first round pick, which was insane because Jimmy G is well not worth that. So when they couldn't find a trade partner, by I don't know, I think it was like March, they should have released him. And then it's right before free agency began. Jimmy G gets shoulder surgery. Yes, he schedules a shoulder surgery that happens right before free agency starts, and he gets that successful shoulder surgery. So I'm glad he's doing well now. But the problem is, it throws a complete wrench in the 49ers' plans to trade him and even release him. So they're pretty much stuck. They're pretty much stuck on what to do. And I'm hearing these bad things, and we don't know what the hell's going on over there. I don't know shit. I'm just a filthy casual dude over here inside a bedroom. So I don't know what the hell's going on with the 49ers. like, I don't know what's going on in that organization, but I can tell them this from a filthy casual perspective that they completely fucked up this whole thing. And there's absolutely no need to keep around Jimmy Garoppolo. There's still, even if there's no one to offer him, have him pass his physical, whenever that is, during the offseason, the remainder of the offseason, where it's mandatory mini camps in June or training camp in July. Let's see how he does with this physical. Hopefully he passes it, and then, I hate to say it, cut him. You have to cut him. Get that money, then use that money to either invest it in, I don't know, another corner that may be out on the market, or maybe get, I don't know, what else could they possibly need? Maybe a center, maybe a veteran center, or use that money to extend either Deebo Samuel or Nick Bosa. What they need that, they need that money. And also, they're creating a weird situation where Trey Lance is essentially preparing himself to be the starter for next season, and you have Jimmy G still in the roster. And if he's still there, and for most of training camp and most of preseason, it's going to create an awkward dynamic. And what's even weirder is that they already have basically two backup quarterbacks. That is one from the Philadelphia Eagles, and two, they drafted very last, aka Mr. Irrelevant, in the draft. So they have to do something. Like, hopefully an answer will be found by training camp. So we'll see what happens there. And then, of course, we have the Deebo Samuel drama that went on last month, and hopefully it's slowly getting itself resolved. Basically, what happened there was Deebo, I don't know if it was him himself or his agent trying to persuade him on to get more money, formally requesting a trade out of the organization shortly before the NFL draft. And there were things going on, like teams trying to put together the best possible trade package, but surprisingly, the 49ers stood their ground. They were like, no, we're not going to trade him. We're going to get this thing resolved with Deebo. And I mean, that's why Deebo decided to refollow the 49ers back on Instagram. I don't think he put all his 49ers posts back up, but hey, one small step for one man, I guess. I don't know. I forgot what the saying was, but anyway, I don't know. Maybe the situation resolved itself with Deebo. But hopefully he can mend that fence with the front office, house hand in hand, because I don't know what the heck happened there. So yeah, that was pretty much the 49ers offseason so far. A lot of craziness, a lot of stupidity for that matter. And other than that, the free agent signings were meh. And in the draft class we're about to get into is actually not that bad. It's actually pretty solid, if you ask me. So now let's get into the draft picks. So for the 49ers, they didn't have a game-changing amount of draft picks. I mean, they had 9. That seems like a lot, but of course, it comes down to how did they use those draft picks? Who will they pick to be those future game changers, those long-term players to make contributions for the team to potentially get back to the Super Bowl and hopefully win a championship. Now, of course, as you all know, that the 49ers didn't have a first-round pick, primarily because, we gave the next two to the Miami Dolphins for that pick for Trey Lance. So going into this draft, we didn't pick until number 61, which is in round 2, very late into round 2. And there were pretty much a lot of needs for San Francisco. They needed a corner, they need edge rusher, they needed a center, they needed a wide receiver. So they either needed a starter or they needed depth at those positions. And I gotta say, they nailed most of it. They nailed most of those picks. For the most part, at least, they kind of like reached a little bit, maybe got a little bit rotational pieces, but other than that, they did nail it in terms of a solid perspective. So let's take a look at these picks. Again, filthy casual here, by the way. So with their first pick, in the second round, they got defensive end Drake Jackson out of USC, University of South Carolina. Not South Carolina, Southern California. For Drake Jackson, edge rusher, and he's gonna be lining up opposite Nick Bosa. And I liked it. I liked this pick. They really got off to a good start here. What I like about Drake Jackson is that he's big, very physical, and is also very fast off the snap. He's actually pretty fast that he can get to the quarterback once he snaps the ball, and he gets them in probably like 3 seconds or less, depending on the offensive line. And he can generate a good amount of turnovers, so he can strip that ball out and he can get to it as quickly as he can. So if he could translate that to the pros, he and Bosa are gonna form a dangerous pass rushing duo. So Bosa's got to be happy with that. Next up, when they got to the third round, things were a little mixy there. They drafted a running back for the second year straight. I don't know why they decided to draft a third round running back when they had some success drafting on day 3 with running backs, but whatever. They drafted LSU running back Tyrion Davis-Price. Now, a lot of people were not happy with this pick because, well, they drafted a running back when we had other priority needs, and I agree with them with that. But the reason why I'm not so happy with this pick is because I don't see any potential upside with Davis-Price. I figure he will most likely be like a third down player just to get the first downs for the offense, and not much more. I don't see him unless someone gets injured. So one of the running backs get injured, whether it be Trey Sermon or Elijah Mitchell or Jeff Wilson. I don't know. I just don't see like his elusiveness that much. I don't see like him getting between the open running lanes or breaking it open. Like, I don't see it that much. I didn't see it in his highlight packages. I didn't see it when I was watching, like when they were showing his draft package when he got picked. I didn't see it. So I'm not sure what Kyle Shanahan was looking for, but I didn't like this pick. So I did like Danny Gray out of SMU. He's a wide receiver, and this looked like it could turn out to be something pretty good. He has pretty blazing speed. He's like super fast, and he has some variable route running. So he just doesn't run in a straight line. It's like, oh, run! Like, I'm gonna go super fast. And Trey Lance, throw me the ball like in just this one direction. No, he runs. He kind of runs like all over the place. So for Trey Lance, that has to be good for him. Giving him some options. Hopefully he'll be in an offense where Kyle Shanahan can, develop him to his fullest potential, and whoever the wide receiver coach is, they can make some work out of him. Now we get into the day 3 picks. A lot of it was mostly spent on depth at that point. And this is where I actually did like the picks more than their day 2 picks. They drafted an offensive lineman by the name of Spencer Burford out of the University of Texas San Antonio. He's big, but he's also a strong lineman that brings some versatility for the 49ers offensive line. He could play both guard and tackle, but again, his biggest strength was being at the guard position, so it adds some competition for the current guards: Aaron Banks, Daniel Brunskill, Jalen Moore, Colin McKivitz. So he's going to be a guy that's going to be competing for that starting job. Again, it's all going to depend on what happens in training camp. They got another corner in Samuel Womack out of Toledo. He was a solid producer in college. He had some good tackling, some good pass breakups. But again, whatever happens in college doesn't always translate in the pros. So if he develops, he could be a good rotational piece whenever Emmanuel Mosley needs a rest. So it is what it is. The other notable draft pick in day 3 was an offensive tackle by the name of Nick Zakelj. And I know it says Zakelj, but it's actually pronounced Zakelj. I don't know why there's a J by the end of his last name. But just like Burford, he's a big athlete. He spent his entire college career as a left tackle. And he's very physical. He's a very physical offensive tackle. He can push through defenders, provide space for the running backs, and he looks like he could be a solid contributor. He could be a solid offensive lineman, whether you ask him to be a tackle or a guard. So when I looked at his film, he looked pretty very, very solid. Again, can he be a solid contributor during the preseason and make his way towards competing for a roster spot? We'll see. So some other notable draft picks out of the final 3 I'm going to be talking about was Tariq Castro-Fields. Very, very strong corner. I like that one. And of course, the very last pick in the NFL draft, Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy out of Iowa State. All I know is that, well, at least he gets irrelevant week. But hey, we got a practice squad QB, so it helps. So overall, I mean, the 49ers did pretty solid in this draft for what they had. No first round pick. Still got I didn't make any trades in this draft. And I guess it is in part due to, them having to use their picks to add some depth and potentially make some replacements at certain positions. But overall, I mean, not the fanciest draft for the 49ers, but overall pretty solid for them. So hopefully maybe they could be some big contributors. There could be some big contributors that make the roster by September. I do hope that guys like Drake Jackson and Tariq Castro-Fields and the two offensive linemen make the cut. If not, the practice squad, so they can have some depth there. So that was the draft. Now let's talk about the schedule. The schedule for the 49ers came out a couple days ago, and it's pretty rough. It honestly is pretty rough. At least on paper, of course. When we get to September and when we get to the season, it's always going to be a revolving circus. That's just the name of the game of the NFL. Sure, the schedule comes out in May, and then when you get to the actual season itself, you never know what's going to happen. Like this, what you think it's going to happen in May doesn't always happen in September. So you kick things off with the Chicago Bears, Bears football in September to kick off the season. And then I initially thought it was going to be like that. I don't know why I pay attention to leaks and rumors, but I thought we were going to open the season with 3 straight road games, which would have been pretty insane. I don't think I've ever heard a team or any team in NFL history that had to open up a season, NFL season, by going on the road 3 straight times and not have a home game for a good chunk of September, for actually all of September. That would have been insane. But then, again, you get the Bears, start the season, you get the Seahawks, the rebuilding Seahawks in your home opener. Then you have to go to the Mile High to take on Denver and Russell Wilson in Week 3 on Sunday night. Then you get a Monday night game going back home against the defending Super Bowl champions. And I guess this is the common theme that we're seeing here for the 49ers in 2022 with their opponents. you get two, like, seems to be two gimmies, like two, like, okay, these are beatable, and then you get two, like very hard opponents right after that, and this is like pretty much most of the season for them. Like, for example, Bears, Seahawks start the season, and then right after that you get Broncos and Rams, and then after that you go out on an East Coast road trip to face the Panthers and the Falcons, and then you come home to face the Chiefs, and then you fly out to LA to face the Rams before the bye week. You see what I mean there? I mean, it's not so much the travel for the 49ers. I mean, yes, it sucks that they have to go to the East Coast, stay there in the East Coast, and then fly back home, and then fly down south. But it's just the opponents. It's just like all weird in this first half. You're facing two, like, I guess it's like a good, I don't know, I guess you could describe it as a good break in between for them. So like you start off with the filler stuff, and then you get all the big meat. Then you get the big meat, and then you get more filler, and then you get the big meat again, and then you get the break. I'm like, I'm famished. Let's have a break. That's pretty much the story. That's pretty much the story of the 49ers, like, first half. Like, that's pretty much how it is. And then when you come back from the bye week, I will admit this. Someone pointed this out, that the 49ers are not traveling out of the West Coast at all at any point. I mean, you're still traveling out of, I don't know if Mexico City is in, like, the Pacific time zone, or no, it's in the Central time zone, I think. But either way, they're not going out of the Eastern time zone, like, at any point, after the bye week. So I guess that's good for them. That actually is pretty good for them. It's because, I mean, but still, you get that weird trend of, easy, hard in between. I mean, because you get the Chargers, you get the Cardinals in Mexico City, and then you got a 3-game homestand against the Saints, the Dolphins, and the Bucks. Again, we don't know anything about the Saints and the Dolphins yet, even though the Saints kind of downgraded. The Dolphins definitely upgraded, but we don't know about Tua. The Bucks, well, they have Tom Brady, so you end your home slate with that. Then you go to Seattle on a Thursday night on a platform that, well, people are forced to buy now. Amazon Prime Video. Yeah, remember that video on YouTube I made a year ago about Amazon's dumbass? And then the Washington Commanders. And then you fly out to Vegas for New Year's. You get to party on New Year's. And then you get to face them on New Year's. And then the Arizona Cardinals in Week 18. So overall, I mean, yes, it's a pretty rough schedule. Initially, yes, it's a pretty rough schedule. But it, as I look upon it, it could look doable. It could be doable to go, at worst, 8-9 or 9-8, and at best maybe 11-6. If in between, maybe 10-7. Because I say that because, sure, they have a lot of tough games, especially in the later stretch of the season when they have to face the likes of the Bucks, the Saints. Yes, the Saints are pretty tough because they have Cameron Jordan at defensive line. They face the Chargers. They face the Cardinals, who will have DeAndre Hopkins back by then. They will also face the Raiders and Devontae Adams. So, but again, like I said, countless times, the NFL season is a revolving circus. It's a revolving merry-go-round. Every week is different. So, we just have to hope at this point that the 49ers are going to compete each and every week. They're going to put out their best effort. They're going to put out their best game. And that Trey Lance is ready to ball. He's ready to ball out in his first real season, because this is This is a big schedule. This is a big test. A lot of these games are big tests for him, especially in the first half when he's traveling so much, and then when you get a big gauntlet in the back half, depending on how things shape out. So overall, if Trey Lance progresses well, and Kyle Shanahan doesn't micromanage anything, he game plans around Trey Lance's strengths as well as the rest of the offense's strengths around him, and the defense plays very well, and the secondary doesn't do dog shit, and nobody seriously gets injured, clean health bill. The Niners, at least right now, we're only in May. We could be looking at at least a positive season for them, but everything will hinge mostly on Trey Lance and his development. How did he do in the offseason? How has his progression been during his full offseason of being with the starters? How has he progressed as a quarterback? It's going to be interesting. He's only 22. Hopefully he gets even better. It's gonna be a wild ride. It's going to be a wild ride, and I can't wait for it. I honestly can't wait for it. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions as in these next 2 months, going into training camp, going into preseason. So we'll end the show with some remaining questions that I have, because I'm not going to be revisiting them again until at most July. So obviously, we don't know the situation about Deebo Samuel. I'm hoping that he works out his issues with the 49ers, and then he gets an extension, because if he doesn't, well, he's going to fined a shit ton of money for no showing mini camps, training camps. So he's going to wonder if that's worth it. Now, the 49ers have a little bit of an issue with their center position. Alex Mack is pretty old. His body's kind of wearing down on him. So the 49ers have to decide what to do at center. Do they bring in somebody that's still out there as a free agent, or whoever they have at undrafted free agents? Do they let them compete for the spot throughout the preseason and sign them? We'll see. Who's going to be the starting running back? I don't think we've had a definitive starting running back since Raheem Mostert. I don't think. Well, Raheem Mostert technically no, actually. Have we ever had a definitive starting running back at all during Kyle Shanahan's era? I don't know. I really don't know. But we have Elijah Mitchell. We have Trey Sermon. We have Jeff Wilson Jr. Now we have Tyrion Davis-Price. Who's going to be the starting running back? Really? And all of them have injury concerns. And I know running backs don't last long in the league, but we gotta have a starting running back, man. And then, of course, the big pressing question is: Are they gonna release Jimmy Garoppolo? Are they just gonna do it, man? We need that 25. They need that $25 million. They got to use that $25 million to allocate to better resources. I don't know, extending Debo, extending Nick Bosa. I don't know, getting another center. That $25 million could be money used to investing in the team instead of holding on to a quarterback that's still in Subway commercials right now with Charles Barkley. I mean, no disrespect to Jimmy Garoppolo. I like him as a human being. I really like him as a person, but he is a burden on the team, man. He just ain't it on the team. Sure, he brings a good locker room presence on the team. He's a good leader, but when he's on the field, he's just so mid. He is so middling. I don't want to hear when he's on the field, when he's leading the team, he gets us a winning record, man. He wins us games. Does he win? Does Jimmy G, himself win you games, or does the team, does the things around him, does the running game, does the receivers, does the defense win him games? Do they win it in spite of him, or do the 49ers win because of him? That's the question that's still unchecked because he's still on the roster. So, obviously, the 49ers, at some point, are they going to release him? Are they still going to find someone desperate enough to trade him? I don't know. I like I said, just have him pass the physical. Hopefully he passes it. And then once he passes the physical, cut him. Just cut him. I mean, I hate to be that guy, but I mean, hey, it's business. So, overall, what do you guys think about this schedule? What do you guys think about this schedule for the 49ers? I mean, my opinion, it looks brutal on paper. I mean, it looks pretty tough, but again, it's a revolving like merry-go-round with each and every NFL season. You never know what's going to happen. So, for the 49ers, I mean, right now, tough, but not impossible. Just as long as Trey Lance develops in the right direction. So, what do you guys think about the schedule? What do you guys think about their draft picks? Let me know your thoughts however you can, whether it's on the YouTube comments, social media, or any way you can. But that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning in into this fine episode number 103 of this freezing cold podcast that houses the icy and spicy lasagna with all the weird takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports. Make sure you tune into the show however you can and wherever you get your podcasts, be it YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, and Google Podcasts, and follow the show on social media. And send me some messages too if you want to on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge. And until next time, peace out.